Hey guys, welcome to another video commentary here. So the upcoming expansions got me to crawl from under my rock now and checking out the player test server to see what's coming up. And things are, I think, looking pretty good for tactics so far. I'm happy with things. So I just wanted to make a video and maybe share my first impressions of what I think about how the class is shaping up so far, and maybe just demonstrate some of the utilities and whatnot, and people could check it out, because I did some searching around. I didn't see there's too much content or people looking too in depth for power tech right now, so I thought I'd put something out there just so people would get a little something out of it. Alright, so this is the new UI that they're introducing for 7.0. I kind of like it, but it just needs some polish for sure. So just to give context here, I boosted my Tactics Vanguard to level 80, and I made a trip to grab all the green entry level set here. It's got 318 rating. Now, none of this 318 gear here is moddable, so whatever stats happen to come on the gear, you're kind of just stuck with. So some of it I figure I could probably tweak numbers so I can hit certain thresholds that I need with, just changing things around with augments is about as good as it gets right now, and swapping out different, alacrity pieces or accuracy pieces depending on what I need. So that'll come. I have not, for the purpose of this video anyway, equipped relics right now, just because for evaluating numbers, I want a good baseline. I don't want one of these relics to proc when I'm testing something out and it maybe inflates numbers a little bigger than what I thought they should be. So I just pulled those out to remove a little bit of an RNG element to the gear setup here. And I'm not too worried about how big the numbers are right now. I'm sure some theory crafters out there are much better at figuring that shit out than me. But I just want to get a rough idea of how strong utilities are, just based on what meager understanding I do have of that kind of mechanics. So the combat style tab here, this is the new way to access your utility points and go over your talent tree. So this is also where you're going to be changing different combat styles. So instead of a Vanguard, I could pick a Commando or a Bounty Hunter spec of some kind if I wanted to here, but I haven't done that yet. But okay, so just looking at the new ability tree here. So what you have in the center here is your some of the passives you get and active abilities you get within the spec, but this column on the right here are all the passives that make tactics what it is. They seem to me to be pretty unchanged. The only thing is they've rolled multiple talents into one just to kind of reduce the congestion here. So you have, as an example, high friction bolts here is actually a combination of three different utilities. Sorry, three different passives that were in the 6.0 tree. They all got blended into just one here. So it's a little long here, but I can assure you that all the different passives are all there, and they seem to be unchanged. So one cool thing, though, the things that I see they have changed as far as abilities go, like basically everything is the same as far as how it functions, but one new introduction here is to Harpoon. They have a 3-second root on it now, just by default. That's just baseline. So it's kind of nice. I'm not complaining about that. Hey, I'm at least what I see what's happening with other classes right now, I'm just happy Harpoon's still on the bar. But just going back on the tree here. So yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing here is that power yield cooldown has been changed. So it's pretty similar to what we were kind of used to with different, in a roundabout way, using a tactical and power yield with a utility here. So what we're looking at is what used to be power yield. It's now called Balmoran Advanced Weaponry. So since that's a bit of a mouthful, I'll just continue referencing it from now on as BA. I know Kid Rock would approve, that just because of that one song that BA would be song, whatever it's called. You know what I'm talking about. We all love that song. My name is Kid. Yeah, that one. All right, so you get that. Now I'll read the tooltip here. I know this thing sounds a little off. I'm sure this wording's going to change, or we'll see how it goes, but yeah, something seems like this one's off. So read it out here. Applies a stack of power yield to you, increasing your armor by 40% and your damage done by 2% for 10 seconds. You instantly gain 5 stacks of power yield. Now, the way this functions, like it would suggest like you only get like 1 stack when you activate this, but what happens is like you get all 5 stacks right away, so you're at 10% damage, and as well your armor's through the roof. So it's a little weird how they worded that first sentence. I'm sure that's going to be gone. It would probably make more sense if they just said something along the lines of like your armor goes up by 400% and your damage is increased by 10% for 10 seconds or whatever it's going to be. That would make a little more sense. Now they've also rolled in the power load tactical into here. So when you activate it, this BA, you get 4 energy load, so you can do your max stack cell burst, and the guaranteed crit chance is here as well. And if you get critically hit while under power yield or BA is what it should be called in the tooltip now, you get energy load stacks, so that's kind of nice. So overall, not too much changed here, but it's nice to have those things incorporated. Now, I did notice something a little wonky when I was doing some testing with tacticals on this one is I'm sure it's going to be removed, but the power load tactical right now, it's still in the game, and it seems to me that the tactical here, the 100% crit you get from this tactical, is stacking with the BA passive that gives you 100% critical. So it ends up being every time you use Cell Burst now, it's doing about 20, 30k more damage. So, I mean, it's pretty decent, but I think this Power Load Tactical is probably on the way out the door right now, so I don't think that'll be in the game much longer, but it's kind of a cool interaction I did notice, though. Okay, so that's the only thing to talk about. The other thing in this tier here is just Cell Burst. You get that at level 23. So your level 27 tier here is basically what kind of a special effect you want for when you use Cell Burst. So you got 3 choices here. So the first one we'll look at is High Yield Explosives. Cell Burst grants you high yield explosives, increases the damage of Ion Pulse or Assault Plastique by 5% per energy load. Max stacks grant a 20% damage increase to Ion Pulse and Assault Plastique. So it's actually pretty decent. I was actually happy when I was testing this out. So it's a little confusing why they have Ion Pulse in there, because like a level 80 or a character who has access to at least Tactical Surge, when you use your Cell Burst here and you get the damage buff for your what should be Assault Plastique, if you're low level and you pick this utility, you won't have access to Assault Plastique or Tactical Surge yet. So I think what they just did is just so it's not worthless at lower levels is just buff Ion Pulse. So once you hit Tactical Surge, Ion Pulse will consume the damage buff instead of your Assault Plastique. But as soon as you replace Ion Pulse with Tactical Surge, then it does Tactical Surge won't consume that buff. So it'll mean when you use Cell Burst, the only thing that gets buffed is Assault Plastique. So you're not having to worry about making sure you don't use Ion Pulse or Tactical Surge or something like that. So you're safe there. Now, a cool thing to know about this utility here is when you use Cell Burst, it grants you like a damage buff on your character for how many stacks you got it up to. It should be the full max stacks here if you're doing it right. But when you throw your Assault Plastique, the buff is consumed at the time of the explosion. So what you can do is if you want to do like a really strong 1-2 punch, because when you get the damage buff for Assault Plastique from this utility here, it makes Assault Plastique hit every bit as hard as Cell Burst does, maybe a little more. So if you drop a grenade on somebody with Cell Burst, and the explosion occurs roughly around the same time Cell Burst is hitting, like that's a huge damage spike that can really catch people off guard, or a good chance this is kind of pressure that's going to land you a kill. So you can actually throw your grenade first, and it takes about 3 seconds for the explosion, so it gives you a little bit of time to use your Cell Burst. That gives you the buff, and then your grenade explodes, and that consumes the buff, so your Assault Plastique does more damage. So pretty cool to know, because if you do it the other way, so if you use Cell Burst and then throw your grenade, it's 3 seconds before you get to like redeem that damage buff, so it's a lot more delayed. But if you throw your grenade first, you can kind of line up the burst a little better window. Alright, so next is Superheated Cells. I was kind of on the fence about the damage on this one. Like, maybe the theory crafters out there can crunch the numbers and let me know if this one's any good, but my initial impression is the dot isn't that good. Like, I can understand if you just wanted to find a way to give cell burst like a damage buff, but you don't want to make the burst too crazy. So if you put like a damage over time effect, that kind of smooths out the extra damage over time, so that the burst isn't strong, but the damage is still the same. So I can understand that, but it seemed to me like the damage was too low. It seemed I would get better bang for my buck where high yield explosives, like the extra damage on the grenade was so good, and with that stronger burst window is that you're not going to need damage over time if whatever you're attacking just dies within seconds. So I wasn't quite sure, but maybe like in a sustained DPS environment, this superheated cells may be better. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to see some numbers, and I don't have the data right now to be able to support anything right now. But just my initial gut instinct, just testing this out, is it's not good. All right, so next up, kill zone. My fucking jaw hit the floor when I read this. This, like, it seems too good. When Cell Burst deals damage to a target, it hits up to 3 additional targets with Cell Burst initial damage within 5 meters. So, just to, like, unpack this one, like, Cell Burst is a fucking huge nuke. And you can hit 4 people at the same time with your hardest hitting attack. That just seems way too good. Like, if you hit 2 people, with just like your cell burst, just using kill zone here, it's more damage than the other 2 towns. So it's like, if you only ever can conceive of a war zone or ranked arena where you're only hitting 1 target, okay, you won't use kill zone. But the moment you can hit something else, it's like, that's really good. So, and you know, of course, you've got your I want to call it power yield. I'm not sure I'm ready to call it BAW yet, Kid Rock. We're not there yet, buddy. But yeah, if you pop your BAW, you get a second cell burst. So if that's an AoE too, holy shit. I don't know if they're meant to be doing that kind of AoE burst, but I would love to see this in a war zone. Like, I haven't tried that on the PTS yet, but man, that could be fucking awesome. And there's also that utility, if you pick kill zone, where your assault plastique grenade can become an AoE. Yeah, here we go. So that would be some crazy AoE burst. You know, if you can get your grenade to blow up, because the radius on that thing's huge, and then hit people with cell burst as well afterwards, like, oh, that's going to be good. Because if you can spread the assault plastique, that'll increase the damage on everybody around, and then to get hit by cell burst. But yeah, let's see if that stays as it is, because that's going to be really fun. I'm going to really enjoy it. So I want to say Killzone's probably the best one in this tier, but High Yield Explosives I thought was really good too. Alright, so the 35 tier here, this is kind of like choose your gap closer option. Now just by default, Vanguard's lost Storm, so that's your charge ability. That used to be baseline for Vanguards, now it's out. So that leaves your mobility. If you don't pick anything else in the utility tiers here that provides you mobility or gap closing, then your only option is grapple. So that's not good. So you do have to pick something in here that provides you that kind of function where you have mobility or something along those lines. So Storm here is a really great option. The cooldown's low at 15 seconds. And something they've done for the 7.0 expansion is they've introduced the Battering Blitz utility into Storm. So that gives you a 6-second window after you use Storm, where it gives you like a little small run speed buff. Like 30% isn't too much, but you know, it's not nothing. I'll take it. Storm didn't have it before, right? So that's kind of cool. The increased damage you get is fucking garbage. Like, it doesn't hit for anything, so that's nothing to really talk about, really. But the second charge that you get, though, like, it doesn't cause an interrupt, it doesn't root the target, and you don't get a run speed buff like you do on the first one. So, I mean, the Battering Blitz, you never picked it because it was pretty lackluster. It's nice that it's rolled into Storm now. So, not complaining, but yeah, just a couple gripes about how effective it is. I can't complain. A 50-second cooldown you can charge twice is pretty damn good. Alright, so Pull and Pommel, your second option here. This has always been a favorite talent of mine. It's just always been difficult finding a way to squeeze it in here without giving up something better. But you know, it gives harpoons a little bit of damage, which not nothing. It's okay. It's something. And your stock strike will deal more damage as well, and it provides a 3-second stun. So with the grapple now having a 3-second root on it, you can pull someone to you. They're rooted for 3 seconds, and what you could do is, like, at the end of that 3 seconds, then you stock strike them, so they're stunned for 3 seconds. At that point, someone's probably, if you stun them, they're probably going to pop a CC breaker, so that you have an option where you can take advantage of that, hit them with another stun, for example, something like that. So Pulling Palma's got some uses. It's pretty decent, but is it better? Is it worth giving a Storm up just to use it? I don't think so, personally. Maybe if you have certain ranked arena focuses, then you might go with Pulling Pommel if maybe Storm's not too important for you. But yeah, Pulling Pommel is definitely an option, but I don't think it's worth giving up Storm. Last one, Reserve Cables. I won't touch on this one too much here, but 2 charges of Harpoon, that kind of sucks, because Harpoon's got a 45-second cooldown and Storm has 15 seconds. So if you're looking at something that can close the gap, then Storm's always a good option. And you can't grapple somebody if they're at full resolve, whereas Storm, you can always charge at a target no matter what their resolve bar is at. So it will always work, and the cooldown shorter. So I would think Storm is just the default, I think, for just about everybody for PvP here. Okay, so the next tier we'll talk about, level 43. These are things that are associated with Gut. And first one here, Tactical Knife. When Gut ticks, you gain a stack of Tactical Draw. Each stack increases the damage done by your next initial hit with Gut by 25%. Max stacks 4. This effect can only occur once every 3 seconds. So basically, you just gut something, and you just sit back and wait. And after a while, you'll get up to 4 stacks, and your Gut button will light up. Now, the damage on it fucking sucks. It hits about the same as Tactical Surge does, possibly a little less. So the damage is not impressive. Like, I think BioWare probably needs to retouch on this one, because if they meant for it to be like a kind of a bursty option, you know, something that's going to do more damage than a Tactical Surge, the damage numbers need to be tweaked a lot more. It needs to be a lot higher. Otherwise, I think this was also a missed opportunity for something unique here, where they could have made this Tactical give, when it's at max stacks, like less energy, so maybe it's free. So this way, if it does the same amount of damage as Tactical Surge and it doesn't cost you anything, then it's like a decent button to hit that gives you like a little bit of breathing room as far as your energy or ammo is concerned now, because it seems to me like Vanguards are going to have to be a lot more careful with their energy management, because they've lost Reserve Power Cell. That's the ability that when you use it, makes your next ability cost nothing. So without that, yeah, you're going to be a lot more careful. So something like that could have been pretty cool. BioWare could have done. But for now, as it stands, this Tactical on its Tactical Knife passive on its own, it's fucking garbage. So next up, we have Serrated Blade. When the bleed effect from Gut is refreshed, the target takes bonus kinetic damage. Now, it seemed to me like this was doing more damage than your other choice here, which is Ricochet Rounds, which is basically, it does like very similarly, like a little bit of damage, but if there's like people within 5 meters, it does a little AoE too. So it's kind of, you know, pick your flavor, whether you want more single target focus versus AoE, and that'll be dictated by what your needs are. It seemed to me like the damage between the two, just on like a single target thing, it didn't seem to me like Serrated Blade was doing so much more damage that it just made it the obvious choice. It seemed to me like Ricochet Rounds did okay single target, but you know, the moment you have other targets introduced, then you can see it's going to start scaling a lot more. So it seemed like, if for now, I would be going with Ricochet Rounds, probably in war zones, and maybe if I had a very specific need for ranked arenas, I would think about Serrated Blade instead. But yeah, I think that one's going to boil down to flavor, and I want to see the Theory Crafters crunch the numbers between these two right now to see what really is going on. Okay, our next tier here, no particular theme, it's just random shit. So first up here, Stealth Scan. Kind of sucks. It's no longer baseline for the class, so you have to actually pick this now. Now, to begin with, Stealth Scan is like such a niche little ability to use, because you can only use it against stealth classes, which is you know, a minority generally of the makeup you can expect to run into any given PvP situation. And it's only really most useful when you can catch someone in a vanish. You know, it's you're not using it too often, and they did roll in that utility, that buff stealth scan, so people can get a speed boost if they run through it. It'll mobilize people that you actually catch in a vanish as well, which is pretty cool. But I don't know if all these goodies for stealth scan are worth what you have to give up just to use it. So I think most people would love to have that if they could, but you'd probably go with something else. So those something else's. When activating Reactive Shield, you gain War Machine, making your next Adrenaline Rush heal up to 45% health, or your next Balmorn Advanced Weaponry, or BA, lasts for 15 seconds. Alright, so that's kind of nice. Reactive Shield you're going to be popping a lot, and Tactics has Reflexive Shield, which every time you get hit, it reduces the cooldown on your shield there. So the more you pop your shield, the more mileage you're going to get at a War Machine here. So the extra 10% healing you get on your Adrenaline Rush, I mean, okay, I'll take it. It's not the worst, but it's not great. And an extra 5 seconds on your BA, that gives you a little more, like a larger window to deal like maybe a little extra damage, survive a little longer. So, and your BA is up every minute, so if it can extend an extra 5 seconds, it's actually not too bad. So I think for a lot of people are going to be happy. This is kind of like to give you that little extra ability to absorb damage talent here. So next, Advanced Infantry Tactics. I really want to like this. I love the idea of being at 15 meters, like thinking of like the melee that would just be in a living hell trying to attack a Vanguard who can attack them from like across a football field. Like it's just cutting those people to death. I can't imagine how frustrating it would be, but you know, it's just an extra 5 meters. But yeah, you know, I just had these fantasies that would be hilarious to see that in action. But now just like a little bit of history though, like this passive right now was actually in 6.0, but you had to actually pop Battle Focus for the extra range. So normally you wouldn't have that extra range unless Battle Focus was up. So they've changed that. You don't need Battle Focus. This range is permanent. So all your abilities there get just work at 15 meters. And the second part of this, the Gut Ticks reduce the cooldown on BA. I mean, it only occurs once every 10 seconds, so it's not going to reduce by too much here, but it's not nothing either. So I think, you know, people can decide for themselves what works good. It's going to be difficult to say for myself right now how the meta is going to look. I know classes are losing mobility, others don't have theirs changing, so I'm not quite sure if the extra range is going to be necessary or not. I suspect it won't be, because it seems to me Tactics is in a pretty good spot as far as mobility and gap closers go. So I don't think this talent's going to be necessary. I think I'll probably be going War Machine initially, because that seems like if I'm fighting, I'll be able to survive a bit better. Next tier here is just kind of just more general utility. So you have Electro Shield, which just zaps people for elemental damage. So this was in 6.0. So you're popping your shield quite often, your reactive shield. So you could get some mileage out of this if you're getting tunneled frequently, but you have to compare it to the other things in this tier that you have to decide from as well. So next up, combat stims. Now this is like super good for PvP. You know, the energy you get back from being immobilized or stunned or whatever, that kind of shit's happening all the time. So this thing's going to be proccing a lot, and 10% extra damage is just super sweet for something that procs a lot. So I think this would just be the default, I think, for most people for this tier. I can't see anything beating it, really. If you don't take this, then you're definitely going to be starving on ammo, because it's so easy to run out in PvP, and if people are doing all kinds of nasty stuff to you, then you just basically get full ammo bars all the time every time they do it, so it's really sweet. So Iron Will here. This passive was in 6.0, but this one got a bit of a nerf. It used to also reduce the cooldown on Hold the Line, which for that cooldown reduction, they actually just baked it into Hold the Line now, so that's why this talent's somewhat nerfed. But the utility's still there, basically, that portion of it. So this now only just reduces the cooldown of Tenacity by 30 seconds, so that's your CC breaker that you get for the class, and the cooldown of Recharge Cells by 15 seconds. So that's not the best, because Generally in PvP, like combat stims is going to be proccing so often that you're not going to need the cooldown reduction on recharge cells, really, because this thing's going to be feeding you ammo all the time. So, yeah, I think this choice, it's a pretty simple one. Yeah, just go with combat stims, I think, for PvP. All right. So for 68 here, this tier, I think Entangling Tools is going to be my go-to, just because Tactics doesn't really have a native way to snare people. So this just gives your Tactical Surge and Explosive Surge that kind of snare you need, and the Neural Jolt snare, that's your taunt snare, it's super good too. So I think this would be the default for PvP, but your other choices here is Frontline Defense, reduces the cooldown of your Rise Strike, so that's your interrupt by 2 seconds, and you take 30% less AoE damage. If you expect to do a lot of ranked arena, then you probably want to go with Frontline Defense, assuming there's another class that can be applying snares to your target, and this way you get the damage reduction, so that's a little more necessary. You also have Reflective Armor, so if you just want to YOLO in war zones just to deal a little bit of extra damage, you could probably pick this. I wouldn't recommend it. I think most people would find Entangling Tools here would be the best option, because it gives you a better quality of life, so you can deal more effective damage. Okay, so the 73 tier, this is the first tier I find where the choice is like impossible. Like this one cuts deep. So look at the first one here, Guard Cannon. I'm not quite sure how the sets are going to be working out. I know the Veteran Ranger set is going to be turned into an Implant Legendary, but it's getting nerfed. I think right now the number I last saw was only 50% chance at an additional missile. So Guard Cannon utility, this might be really good for you, or may not give you as much as you hope for. So it's kind of RNG on the table here, but considering the other things you have to give up just to use it, I don't know if it's worth it anymore. So your next one, this hurts. You don't have a single target stun anymore. They took it away from you, so it's just the utility now. So if you want that single target stun back, then you have to give up Hold the Line, which fucking sucks. So the cool thing about the utility here is like all the utilities in 6.0 that buffed Hold the Line, so longer duration, the 75% movement speed, everything that made it super good, is all baked into the Hold the Line now. So if you pick Hold the Line, you are Sonic the Hedgehog all over again. So, but you have to give up your single target stun for that. That's the downside. So that makes it really difficult. I think myself, I'm going to be leaning initially towards taking Hold the Line, because the protection you get from not being able to be snared, or that kind of stuff, it can't be knocked down or anything. Like the protection you get for that is so important in PvP, so that if the less people can control me, the more effective I am. Now you can make that argument for stunning someone too, but that's the impossible choice. Is like, do you stun somebody or do you get that protection? So I'm leaning towards Hold the Line first, but that could change depending on how the mobility works out in the meta. I may not need Hold the Line anymore, so we'll see. But my gut reaction right now is like, Hold the Line's more important than a single target stun. That's also leaning on I'm hoping the burst damage is going to make it so I maybe don't need things to be locked down for longer. Maybe I'll just kill them quicker, so I don't need the stun as much. That's my fantasy anyway. So next line, Efficient Tools I think is going to be the only choice here, because the other two talents don't even hold a candle to it for PvP. So Adrenaline Rush here gives you a second CC breaker. So that's always good, because you have to worry about, any class really, you're most likely to be killed when you get chain stunned. So if you get stunned twice in a row and you're a low-ish health level, it'll put you in a position where you're either going to die or will die very soon. So if you can get out of jail free and do something by breaking out of the stuns, that's always key. Now the other option here, Sonic Rebounder. Is it worth giving up Efficient Tools? No. That's about all you can say. And Paralytic Ogg, so increasing the duration of your stuns. Is that worth giving up Efficient Tools? Also no. So this tier is actually, it's the very final tier, and there's really no choice. Efficient Tools is just too good. So I think considering how some of the classes I've seen so far have worked out in PvP, Vanguard for Tactics here got off pretty light as far as the nerf back goes. So I can't complain too much. It seems like the gameplay is going to be pretty much the same as it was in 6.0. the jury's still out on whether the damage numbers are going to be pretty good at level 80. That we have to still find out. There's a lot still up in the air. Of course, it's PTS, right? So I guess we'll find out how the meta is going to shape up. But for what it's worth right now, it seems to me like Vanguard Tactic Specs is going to have really good mobility. It's going to have some really solid burst damage, and I don't see things going any differently than what it's been playing out in 6.0 with it's basically just a class with ridiculous burst. So yeah, I think things are looking pretty good. So my initial impression of Tactics is positive. I'm happy. Alright guys, well I plan to do a couple more of these kind of videos because there's some other classes I'm looking at playing as well. So look to the future and we'll get some more of these out. Thanks.